Hey guys, welcome to chapter 3 of the Emergency Fire 1 tutorial. Now we're ready to import. Let's load up the editor, which I've done already. Now, the first thing to do is press F11. Now this will bring up the asset browser. This is quite an important pop-up menu. Essentially, this is all the assets that we have. You can find, for example, here Essex mod, content. All these files here are what make up the Essex mod. You know, we've got prefabs in there, textures, material files, meshes, all sorts. So pretty much anything you want to find can be found in here. Okay, so now we need to make a new project. To do this, go to the bottom here, create new project. Name, so whatever your mod's going to be called, or your project. You can leave that ticked on for the minute if you want to. Essentially, all that is to do with is there's basically two versions of the editor. You have an offline version and an online version. And then, from my understanding of it, from what the Biberfeld team have told me, you can the online variant you can share it out between devs working on the mod. So rather than do it the old way, where you'd have to send the project back and forth with the latest updates and stuff, essentially you can all work on one build and save it, and everyone will have the latest version. But I mean, I've never set that up yet, so I would just leave that on for the minute. Okay, so once you've done that, your new project will show up here. In my case, it says Essex mod, and you'll have content. Now, next thing we need to do is to tell the well builder where to import our new files that we're going to import, so our mesh files and stuff. So what we do, we right click on content, so Essex mod content, then we click set as default destination asset package, and then that will show up with that line under it. That means that's the default package. Okay, so that's that done. Now, another little tip for you, I always tend to load a map up because I don't know why this generic sort of map that it loads up initially has some weird lighting. I'll just show you an example of the 5 series. I mean, you can see it looks kind of weird, doesn't look right, it looks very dark. So yeah, let's go and load a map up. Now while that's loading, hopefully your well builder should look like mine. On the right here we have the prefab browser, prefabs on the left, object browser, on the bottom debug log. If yours doesn't look like that, you need to go back to chapter 1. There's a video on the end there, the German video. It teaches you how to set up hotkeys and everything else. It's worth watching because I've set mine up how they've set theirs up. So okay, let's find a nice spot. There we are. I'll have this little area over here. Right, now the next thing to do is we need to import our mesh file. So let's just come out of the well builder for a minute, leave it running. Let's go to our work files, BMW. Now let's look for our mesh file, which is there, and then I'm going to click and drag it onto the well builder and into here. You should say copy. Okay, now you should be brought up with a pop-up menu like this. You should have some more entries on the left here. It should pick up the textures, but because I already have this model in there, I don't think they're showing up. So yours should have like the colour on there. Like for example, it should say BMW 5 Series _C. The same again, but with _G, S, N, and so on, picking up and registering all the textures. So once that's done, you can type the name in there. Default, that's where it's gonna, what folder it's gonna go in up here. So now you've done that, hit OK. And And there we go. As you can see, obviously I've got doors on this one, but don't worry about that. That's because it's because this is part of the Essex build. I messed it up last night. It should just look like that. That's essentially it. You can also bring up, press M for the material browser, and just type in BMW 5 series. You'll also see it's picked up the other materials that we exported from Blender. Got the headlights, blinkers left, right, brake lights and so on. But if I click on that, you can, these values that we have here, you'll see it's picked up the AO map, it's picked up the colour map, the emissive map and so on. And what you can do, which is really cool, which I like about this, if you've imported your model and you find it's a little bit too dark or it doesn't look quite right, you can just tweak these values. So that number there, 1, you can increase that to 1.2 to make the colour map brighter and so on. So this is another important pop-up menu. That's M to bring up the material browser. Really helpful. So that is essentially it, really. That is how you import stuff. I think in the next chapter we'll cover setting up doors, adding bits to the model, and making a prefab. Now, a prefab is essentially lots of meshes added together. So I mean, I kind of done it here with this one. You can see it's got, you know, that door there is saved to the prefab. And a better example would be this. Where is it? Unmarked. There we go. This one here. This is essentially the whole prefab for the BMW, the unmarked variant. And if I go to object properties, you can see all these various bits here that make up the prefab. Flares, wheels, but we'll go into that in a lot more detail a bit later on. But next chapter we'll just focus on doors, adding them and building or starting to build our first prefab. Okay guys, hopefully that's pretty helpful to you all, and I'll see you in the next chapter.